right, everybody, welcome into an off-season edition of the Garden Report. Bobby Manning, Josue Pavon, or Pavano, as I like to call him from time to time, and Jimmy Toscano.
Don't make that a thing. We're not making
Pavano
that a
thing.
Pavano.
No, it's Pavon.
Pavon.
Exactly right. That's how unwanted nicknames start.
And real quick, we have to say it is pronounced Josue for everyone in the comments who's saying we're pronouncing it wrong. Correct?
That's true. That's true.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jose Pavano. It's Josue Pavon, people. Get used to it, okay?
Get it right.
So spitballing on the offseason is not a ton of traction. I think since last we spoke, the Lakers won the NBA title. And we'll talk a little bit about that and where that places them kind of in the history of NBA franchises. If I'm not mistaken, that was title number 17.
17. If we'll get into it, but if you count some other questionable titles. So.
Okay. We are counting the 10, 11 years that Red basically bought the NBA, right? So I mean, right.
There's a lot to digest there.
Yeah, we don't talk
the
about
ice capades, whatever the hell it was called.
Yeah. So all right, let's get into it. The first thing is what are you going to do in the offseason? You can talk about draft, but nobody knows who any of the players are except for Bobby. And we'll give him a chance.
Even I'm getting there. Yeah.
and he's
I want Bobby's top 3.
It's not a great draft. The Celtics have 3 Midland picks. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but all you can look at here is free agents and trades and free agents and trades. And for whatever reason, Marcus Smart gets less and less popular as you get further away from the season. And so it's always what you remember what he did last. And what he did last was take 75 shots in a game that they lost to the Heat. And everybody's mad and seems to be getting madder about it. And again, Celtics don't have a lot of options for trades right now. So Marcus, it's a double whammy with him. He's getting hit both ways. The recent memory of him is a guy who's undisciplined and jacking too many shots and doesn't fit with the players you have, which again isn't entirely true because he is a distributor and they actually play well when he's on the floor. He just has those moments like Game 6 where he's got to rein it in, and that's happened before. The other is he's really only he's really got the only guy with a tradable salary and the only asset that you can deal. So naturally his name's going to come up. So one trade that came up, and I'm going to start with it here, and then we'll kind of kick around other possibilities on the Simmons and Zach Lowe podcast, a theoretical swap with, nope, you hate it. Pavano doesn't like it.
No, he's leadoff.
He already hates it.
That's a leadoff.
Simmons, come on.
Simmons, it's so funny. Simmons is the boomer devil for young Celtics fans out there. Okay.
Yo,
I love Simmons.
You nailed it. That's exactly what. Yeah.
He is just bad boomer. Nobody wants to hear anything coming out of his mouth. But this scenario was Smart to Golden State. Smart plus 14, I believe, to Golden State for the number 2 pick. Which again, it's an uninspired draft. We could kick around some of the players who might be there, and we'll let Bobby spitball at that. But at face value, is this a deal that you would do if you're the Celtics? Let's start with Josue, because obviously he's not liking it.
Absolutely, 100% not. Like, I don't understand why people completely forget. And I love the way you led into this conversation with Marcus Smart. Like how soon they forget. Do we forget the old Marcus Smart? Like that was the guy that's all of a sudden returned and he's like characterized as being that guy just because he had a really, tough series. Let's face it. Yeah, of course. He jacked up shots. He, poor decision-making down the stretch. Yeah, all that, all the above. But I mean, overall, all season long, he hasn't been that guy. He's come a long way from jacking up shots and just taking terrible opportunities, and I just think everyone is just sort of giving him a bad rap. This is a huge part of the Celtics identity. And if the Celtics aren't drooling over a top 2 pick that they really think they could plug in and make an immediate impact, which I just don't see it, honestly, that someone that can really, that's worth giving up, someone like Marcus Smart and giving him up just like that. Like, I just think he's just too valuable to throw in a trade like that for someone that you're not 100% sure is going to fit and put the Celtics over the top. If it's not putting you over the top, then I don't want to hear the proposed deal. And most of these deals have been so bad. I mean, this one isn't up there, but like people are just throwing Marcus Smart in trades that he just doesn't belong in. It's been ridiculous.
In a different draft, the idea of trading up into pick number 2 would be very enticing.
In a different draft, right?
I'm still, call me a sucker. I'm still looking at like, you just gotta you have your pick of everybody but one player. That just means you got to just nail one. And it's just it's enticing for me. To go up that high in the draft is enticing, even if.
Well, this is the thing with rookies, they need time, and time could be more than a year. We think of a James Wiseman.
Yeah, you're going to take a step back.
Yeah, and that's the thing about trading any one of the pieces on this team, and it's fun because the idea of mixing things up and shaking things up is always intriguing. But ultimately, the Celtics, looking back toward 2015 now, and Marcus Smart being the center point of that, have developed year in and year out, progressed. Besides 2019, we all know what happened there. They've taken the step to being a veteran team. Even the younger pieces on this team, Brown, Tatum, like they're foremost players in this league at this point. So Smart, I get why his name gets thrown around because the contract's good. It can match with almost anybody. And it's enticing for other teams because he, as we talked about in our last episode, can be that chemistry piece for a team. But I think no matter what, the Celtics are losing something there because you guys talk about the offense. What about the defense? He was just all defense, had one of the best defensive seasons of his career. And that's as critical as anything for a championship. And he's going to be on the bench. I keep saying this. If the team's healthy, he'll be a bench player. And if they're not, they're screwed anyway.
As an aside, I'm going to say this about Marcus Smart and defense, okay? And the conversation doesn't have to go here, but I love what he does, on the defensive side of the ball, and he makes plays and the whole winning plays thing. But honestly, he's not a great on the ball defender against quicker guards, and he gets eaten alive. He gets eaten alive in those matchups.
But team defense and team defense,
yeah, team defense is
right. That energy is contagious, John.
Let's
face it. He's made some other defenders look way better just from being out there.
The team defense is great, and he does make plays all over the place. And the energy and the attitude, absolutely
boxing out.
I think but his individual on the ball defense, when you're
fair.
Stop that guy, when that guy's one of these quick, jukey guards, he's not able to do that.
Right.
So that to me, it's different if you can neutralize those guys, a Murray, a Booker, and again, you're not facing these guys left and right. But I think he struggles with a lot of these players. So separately, Jimmy, your thoughts just initially. And again, what's funny is, this trade was laughed off as something the Celtics would never in a million years think of. So people are so adamantly against it. I don't think it's a total slam dunk. No, do you?
No, listen, I think when Danny Ainge is interested in a draft prospect, we usually hear about it, right? One way or another through the grapevine. We know, he's either showing up to some sort of, tournament, game, event, whatever. We kind of hear. I haven't heard that about any of the players in this draft. I mean, specifically with this draft, it's not a deep draft. We know that. But in terms of Marcus Smart as the trade chip, I'm not against that. Now, I'm not actively shopping Marcus Smart, but I understand if I'm the Celtics that if I want to improve my team in one aspect, I know I'm not trading Tatum. I know I'm not trading Brown, right? Those are the two untradables. I'm not sure what you can get for a Kemba Walker trade. We're going to talk about Gordon Hayward, but on the last year of his, though, you're pretty limited there. Marcus Smart gives you value not only from what he can provide on the court, but what his contract is. So if you're looking to improve in one area, Marcus Smart is a valuable piece and an asset that a lot of teams would be interested in because of all the reasons you guys talked about why you don't want to trade him. How he is on defense, team defense, what he brings to the team, his intensity. He's a veteran in this league now, believe it or not. And I think he can help a winning team. So why can't he help the Celtics? Well, he can. He has. And I think maybe his role obviously changed in the bubble when Gordon Hayward went down and he was doing a lot more than what maybe we wanted to see him do. And it's give or take with him, right? I mean, his gift is his curse at times. And I think, like John said when he first started off the video, it's Marcus Smart's very what have you done for me lately? So the last thing to remember of Marcus Smart is the shot checking. But there are some games when he's diving over the court and he makes the crazy pass or the big rebound. He is a versatile defender, but he's not a shutdown defender like John said.
But let me ask this, okay? Because this is what's funny. I love these. I remember at NBC, we did a segment back with potential trades. This was the year that they picked Tatum, and they had the number 1 pick, and it was okay, you want to trade up and get Leonard, you want to do this, you want to do that. So came up with a bunch of trade hypotheticals. And my favorite thing about that segment was both sides were furious saying they would never do it. Okay.
That's this trade, right?
And that's this trade.
Yeah.
The Warriors are like, are you freaking kidding?
And that's the thing about this
You're going to
draft.
give the number 2 pick for this friggin' ham and egger who, 34% 3-point shooter who plays some defense, a gritty glue guy. I don't want that. I want stars. And that's the whole thing is it's the promise of what may come from something like the 2 pick of a potential third star. You got to home grow these things. This is why I'd be for it.
But who though? Who?
Here's
Who
the thing.
is
It doesn't
Who's the
matter.
guy?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It does matter, though. You have to have an idea of who you want.
You know where your ceiling is now, which is play everything perfect, have no injuries, possibly get to the finals, and then who knows what, maybe for the next year or two, or just next year. But in order to get to that next level, you're going to need a third star to put with Tatum and Brown, and chances are you're not going to be able to go Supermax sign that guy in 2023 because you're going to have one of those teams that has 3 players and then friggin' nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
If you can make the money work. So the best path to that is home grow it. You got to find a way to, it would have been great if you hit a home run on a hero. Again, we're not going to say hero is that guy, but it would have been great if you hit a home run with one of your non-lottery or lower lottery picks.
Yeah.
But right now, this is the best chance you're going to get a guy. And again, this is a hypothetical trade, but I do this every day of the week, because it's just possible that you hit that home run. I'm not looking for next year. Your championship window is this short. If you stay with what you've got right now, it's 2 years, or you possibly extend it into Jalen and Jason's prime by hitting a home run, and I would absolutely take that swing.
Okay, but that makes sense in what you're saying. But at the same time,
Josue's all in.
Okay.
At the same
Just
time,
start with Jimmy and then Josue. Yeah.
Okay. What you're saying makes sense. You obviously want to spread out the wealth, and you want to have guys rotating into your roster that contribute at all different times of their careers, right? But if you're the Celtics, you're at a point now where you can make the case that you should have been in the NBA Finals. You're right there. Again, I'm not against trading Marcus Smart or Gordon Hayward, but do you trade them for a prospect, somebody you have no idea on, somebody that's not going to help you theoretically next year that much, right? Maybe it could to an extent, but when you make a trade like that, don't you want to make sure you're getting something back to you, like a proven commodity, something that can help you take you from Eastern Conference Finals to NBA Finals? And I just don't know if you're the Celtics, if that's the trade that's going to do that for you. Now, if you're the Golden State Warriors, I mean, that's exactly why they would make the trade, right? Because they're having their guys all come back, and they're at the cusp of going from
this might be
to even greater if they bring Marcus Smart on. So they're saying, well, we don't think we need a top prospect because we're built for NBA Finals already. The Celtics could make that case, except they're set a little bit more for the future. And obviously, if you want to talk about homegrown products, you can just look at the Warriors because that's why they are where they are.
And the Celtics are starting down that path because you've already got 2.
Right. So why do
I
you
agree. They're starting down that path. Yeah.
John?
No,
what's that?
Like, why would you stray from the path?
I'm not. I would continue on.
They may have hit their peak.
I believe
they may not be able to go any better.
I believe they've hit their peak.
The case is.
Hold on. Let me get into it.
Go.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason I say it like that is because look, Danny H has orchestrated this thing somewhat perfectly, right? Not perfect, but nothing's going to be perfect in this league, right? So what I mean by that is you have Marcus Smart at making 13-12 million, right? What a steal. Yeah. Plenty of value there, right? Jaylen Brown, and I think this is a move that has been so overlooked. You lock in Jaylen Brown for that amount of dollars, right? Compared to what Jamal Murray made, I don't even want to go down that road, but just, I'm throwing that out there just so you can use that, to compare it to what Jaylen Brown's making. That's a steal and a half, guys. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, these guys need to turn into the Kawhi Leonard and Paul George of the Eastern Conference. Now, look, I know the Clippers didn't do well. I know that story didn't end well. But what I mean by that is these two guys need to take control of the team. They need to lead the team. You had these two guys locked in. You have Marcus Smart. That's a bargain right there. Why are you going to rock the boat and trade someone like Marcus?
I'm greedy. I want a third star.
This is a huge.
Will Marcus Smart allow them? Will Marcus Smart allow them to take the reins, or will he do more of the performances that we saw?
See, that's the thing.
Look,
I'm adamant
what happened?
I'm adamant
the conference finals. Look, I just think this team's been around each other for quite some time that they can iron those things out. Like, I don't think it's the end of the world.
Are they good enough?
Yeah,
to
I'm
win
at it.
the
This
NBA
team doesn't
Finals?
need to make a drastic trade. It just, I don't see it.
They're good enough to win, Jimmy. I just think their health's fleeting, which we've seen the last couple of years, and they don't have the depth to sustain when they lose one of their core guys. Now, if they're able to maintain this group for years to come with the Hayward restructure, which is a possibility out of all of this as well, I still think they're in a pretty good spot with their top-end talent to contend. And if they can mix in one good draft pick, it feels like they'll have enough of depth there. But what John describes here is important because they don't have tradable contracts into the future, especially if you lose Hayward and you're not filling out that spot there. And Smart does only have 2 contracted years left. So what you're looking at here is you want to contend now, but you also want to have assets alongside Brown and Tatum for all the years they're going to be here, because then you get into the back end of their deals and you still want this to be a competitive team. Mm-hmm. I don't like giving up a championship window, which is what you're ultimately doing. I feel like if you're trading Marcus Smart for lesser value, but it is smart to have tradable contracts, assets in the form of draft picks, things that you can carry into the future to, as John said, make that big strike, pull in another star in the ensuing years, because this group ultimately does only have 1 or 2 years. When we think about Kemba's health too, to win a championship, and that could fly
and they
fast.
might not be. They might have swung and missed, because we don't know.
One injury and you're done.
Yeah, we
could
don't
say
know
that about like every team.
Right,
no,
but the best part, and the best thing about that is, I mean, not to put it this way, but you guys know what I mean. Like, Kemba Walker, if that was the case for someone like Jason or Jalen, like, I still think these two guys are on their way up. Obviously, Kemba is where he's at in his career, and these next 2 years are so crucial because they're probably going to be down a hill after that. You're a little bit worried about Kemba's health moving forward, but again, I think if you can somewhat go into limiting his minutes throughout the course of the regular season, making sure he's good to go, come to the postseason. I think Jaylen Brown is that good. I think Jason Tatum is that good. We're going to see an all-star season from Jaylen Brown.
See, I think we agree on that.
But that's the thing is, I think this is the problem with the Marcus Smart debate.
I just think you're locked into that window.
A lot of people think when you try to get rid of him, you're getting rid of him because you don't like him. It's not that.
No, that's not
right.
It.
That isn't it. It's like Bobby said, and I was saying earlier, is you're doing it to, you always have to manage now and down the road. You're not. This is not win now or bust when your core players are 22 and 21. You know what I mean? Is like. That's not what you're worried about winning now. You theoretically have a 7-8 year window to build this roster around these people and make sure that when you get to the point where Tatum's going to start to have choices, that you have something here that's worth staying. Because the one thing you don't want is Mr. Friggin' LA or a 25-year-old guy looking around and like Miami's kind of cool.
I was just going to say that. Yeah,
Dallas is on the rise. There's some legitimate destinations rising, and LA is trying to get off that Luol Deng contract.
So you got to worry about that.
Third max.
You're as much managing for, I got to keep these guys here and happy and make sure that I've got the team that they stay. You don't want a Giannis situation, or you don't want a Kawhi, whatever it is. You don't want people looking around like
Kyrie Irving situation.
Kyrie.
So
New Jersey's fine.
So that could be part of the problem, is you have to constantly be building there. For me, the Marcus thing, I would take that swing even if it makes you a little bit worse, because I'm not as
let me throw some more enticing names at you guys, because you're not going to get excited about the draft because those guys are years away from being important players. But I do think there's 2 teams out there that would be interesting team partners for Boston. I look at Orlando on the Hayward side. We talk about Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, those kind of guys, because they're flatlining out there. And I think a Hayward to mix things up there would be intriguing for a team like that. And I look to Sacramento on the Smart front, because that's a team that had been interested in him in the past. And they're going to have to trade Buddy Hield because of discontent there. I mean, it feels like he wants to be out of there. So those are 2 names I'm looking at.
That's a lot of money on Hield.
That's a lot of shooting.
But is he a better fit offensively?
You would do that
Boston,
to Marcus Smart. You would send him to Sacramento, man.
It's not me. It's Danny.
That's just painful.
I can hide behind Danny there. You're good with both of those. All right. Well, I mean, those are the kind of names that I think can at least maintain the Celtics status if they're moving on from either one of those guys.
It sounds like
because they're good enough.
Josue wants to retire Marcus Smart's number next year. You won't entertain
Not yet.
Marcus Smart.
No, I'm just kidding. No, man, I like Vucevic. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I like Vucevic a lot, but if you're the Magic, I don't know. I don't know if you're eager to push that button and you're thinking Gordon Hayward is going to be, this is a couple of years ago and all injuries aside, maybe. But now, I mean, he's 30. Not to say that he's older, but all these injuries. I mean, teams are just scared of him. I honestly believe
for real. You wouldn't go Anthony Edwards at the 2 pick there?
No, I don't like him.
Okay.
Is there anyone that you guys?
Wiseman seems to be the consensus, but he's probably not NBA. He's going to be a year or two.
That's how bigs go. Yeah,
and especially a big
take time to develop.
A lick last year.
Yeah. He shows a lot of promise in the way the big out there in Phoenix did, but less refined to me. And he's going to need some work. He's going to need some smoothing over. Like he honestly would be good for Golden State because they have more of a system around where he won't have to do as much. He can just play 18, 20 minutes a game. And in Boston, they'll be counting on him as the starter. So that wouldn't be ideal.
All right. Well, so Marcus, again, that's not going anywhere. And it's going to keep getting talked about, the merits of doing so. And you're going to hear a bunch of different scenarios on that. Bobby touched on Hayward, so I do want to pivot there. Okay. So here's the Celtics Gordon Hayward conundrum. Is likely he's going to opt in for $34 million because he can't really not, this market, the uncertainty.
36, I think, right? Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
Okay. So
yeah, he's
going to take that 30. Yeah. But this is going to create a problem for the Celtics because if he opts in and then walks, they lose that. They lose it. They lose the space. They lose the asset. They just comes off the books and they can't re-sign a player at his level. So that's a major risk here for the Celtics, almost to the point that I personally believe, and you might have to, this is what we're going to debate here. If he opts in, I think the Celtics have to trade him, even if it makes them worse. And again, this goes back to the whole asset conversation of losing, or the other, and Bobby alluded to this briefly, is restructure. So that's what we'll throw out here. Let's go on the scenario that Gordon Hayward does in fact opt in, which everyone expects he will do. And he does not. One, do you want to restructure him for like a 3-60, 3-65, whatever it would take to get him back? Or would you rather trade him and try to roll it up into something? And again, we've heard that Indiana scenario a bunch of times with Oladipo and or Turner. Throw some picks in, make the money work, and see what happens. So, Jimmy, start with you. What do you think? What do you want to see happen here?
Well, like Marcus Smart, I think Gordon Hayward is expendable. So I'm certainly not just going to say, no, you have to figure out a way to get this guy back and restructure his deal and sign him to a 3-year extension. When you want to talk about injuries, we all know the story with Gordon Hayward in Boston. So I don't, weirdly enough, I wouldn't call him injury prone. I think a lot of his injuries have been fluke. But I'm wondering if that's going to play an effect into how serious the Celtics get with the restructure. But John, like you said, the last thing Danny Ainge is going to want to see happen is just watch this guy walk away and get nothing in return and not have that cap space. So I think he's going to exhaust all options. I said it in the last time we met. I'm not content with where the Celtics are at the 5. I'm not sold on Robert Williams. I hate to say it. I think that's a risk going into next season, depending on an unknown like him to sort of take that massive step and take you to that next level. So if Gordon Hayward, opts in and the Celtics do find themselves in a position to trade for a big that fits their style of play, and I don't know if it's Miles Turner or whoever it is, I think you absolutely have to look at that. And it goes back into what we're talking about with Marcus Smart, continuously adding, contracts that you can, grow in value, flip, restructure, extend.
Yeah, flexibility.
Exactly. It's part of continuing, building around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So I think that's something they have to look at. Now, a healthy Gordon Hayward, I think we all agree that, a healthy Gordon Hayward probably takes the Celtics to an NBA Finals.
That? I don't even know what that is. I don't. It's like
you saw that up until the
a healthy Gordon Hayward might as well
be. They forget, Bobby.
it might as well be the freaking Easter Bunny.
All right,
Okay,
so-
it doesn't exist. It's not real.
Whoa! What do you mean it doesn't exist? Easter Bunny doesn't exist.
Sorry, kids.
Easy.
Remember
I'm
when?
not sure
Remember
about
when he? Hey, a 50% Hayward saved the Celtics in Game 3 of that Heat series.
Oh, goody.
So
I've grown. The idea of trading Hayward has grown on me. I'll credit Ryan Bernardoni in that, and the extension of that money idea that you want to maintain that over many years instead of just having that one bang 34 and bust. Now, I think there's value in that, and that if you really believe you can win the championship in 2021, you would stick with that and not care if he walks. But the Bucks are around, the Lakers are around. There's just no certainty there.
There's no certainty.
And you don't look at the Celtics with Hayward as being the super team. But if you restructure him, I think having Hayward still puts you head and shoulders above other teams in terms of that core.
Yeah.
And you have the certainty that you have him for many years. Luckily, this is easy for the Celtics. If he opts out, you can work with him. If he opts in, you can trade him. So the decision becomes fairly easy. And I think what's underrated here is Hayward can actually be very valuable for another team, not just because there's the potential of him playing at a star level, but because he clears $34 million off that team's books. And even though it won't clear up the Celtics, it could open up a max slot or very close to it for another team that wants to get on next year.
He has value, but you may get a lesser something in return just to be able to kind of hang on to an asset. So it's in line with the Marcus Smart conversation. It could theoretically make you worse. I think no one's going to argue the on-floor product.
It will. It will. It almost certainly will.
No one's going to argue the on-floor product is going to be better if Marcus remains and plays out his contract and whatever happens there, and Hayward restructures or even plays out next year. But if he's there and he's healthy, which
Hayward's never been healthy, I guess. We all forget the bubble.
Last full year he was healthy.
The bubble was 8 games.
Okay. Last full year he was healthy. I think he had 1 kid and he lived in thousands of miles away. Okay.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Daddy's always happy, right? No. Listen, with Gordon Hayward, I think when you remember when he said that? No.
Yeah.
Listen, with Gordon Hayward, it would be easier for the Celtics if he opts in, right? Because you have to trade him. And I think realistically, that's probably what's going to happen. But if you're the Celtics, you have to showcase the guy. Again, to my point, you have to prove, or at least
that's a good point.
He can play to the level that they saw, I guess, 25 months ago, because you guys already forgot. I mean, he did that all season long. He balled out. Like teams that doesn't
he got hurt 3 times during the year.
Right, but listen. If you showcase him,
he's
gonna get value.
Running into a pick. I mean, the guy's made of glass, Josue. I know we're saying we're not injury prone.
John, that's why I'm not saying
4 times a year.
That's why I wouldn't want to see the Celtics restructure his deal, honestly. And look, I hate to say it, but like if you look down the road, I just don't see. I don't think it's worth it. $20 million per. I mean, if you can get him down lower,
because
if you can get lower than that, maybe.
But that's
realistically, I see this thing playing out where he opts in because he knows he has to showcase himself, whether it's in Boston or whether it's for another team. And I think if the Indiana Pacers, now here's the only problem with this situation is with the Indiana Pacers, I love Miles Turner. I love that scenario.
Oh, I hate him.
I like him. I think he would play well at the Celtics. I like the fit. But to your point, John, you lose that trade, but you take it because you want to get some value out of the deal, right? But the thing is, how good are the Pacers going to be come the trade deadline in 2021? I mean, is TJ Warren gonna play like he did in the bubble? Is Oladipo gonna all of a sudden maybe he sticks around and they ball out and they're 4th in the Eastern Conference? And then how eager are they to make a move? But there's always a team at the deadline that's eager, right? But again, I mean, with Gordon Hayward, it's really. I think it boils down to how much how badly do the Celtics want to lose in a trade? Are they going to be stubborn enough to say, you know what, screw it, let's go into the playoffs. If he leaves, he leaves. Hopefully, we can figure something out. If not, the hell with it. Or if you're Danny, you're saying, no matter what, just give me the best offer. See you later, Gordon.
I think you do in the offseason, and they'll do it too. You want to integrate a guy during the offseason. You want to get that done, have the book set. The decision, it's going to be a tough decision, and not just because of the basketball and who you're getting back and this and that, but you're also trading a guy who signed in Boston, and you want to have some favor for guys who want to come to Boston in the future. It's something that they built over the last 5 years that never existed before. Sure. And all of a sudden you are running into that Isaiah. And that's a consideration because when Anthony Davis was on the table, all that stuff drummed up, and you can think about the Lakers and this and that, but it was noise. It was noise around the league. It was noise with agents that they don't care about their players and that they'll ship anybody off at a moment's notice. Plus, we have Brad's relationship with him, which is another thing. Brad likes having him here, and it's a consideration because you do want to keep Brad.
Situation like Rozier.
No, I don't think you're going to do that with him either. It's just going to be the 34 straight up. And because if you sign and trade, you hard cap yourself, and they don't want that either. It's tough, but it's grown on me because of those future considerations. Yep. I'm not as opposed to as they used to be. But if they can work it out, I work it out with him and make it work long term. And that's what I hear the Celtics want to do too.
Yeah, and so that's, again, it seems that you want to get him to do it. You wanted Al to do it, though, and it didn't happen. Again, we're talking about
different offseason.
I know, but we're talking different and totally different circumstances for sure. But you don't know. We don't know how happy he is here. We don't know.
With idiots like us yelling at him every day, he might hear it and want to get out of here.
We're not the worst of it, by the way, okay? There's
Hayward, on the radio.
If Smart's a polarizing figure, Hayward is, I mean, there's a lot of people who are tough on him. I don't know. We don't really know what he wants to do beyond. I don't want to call it a cash grab, but beyond just cashing in on this season. Beyond that, I have no idea. If he's game, I mean, if I'm him, I don't do it. I take the 1 year and I see what happens after that.
Right. Exactly. I think it's just all but done pretty much, like on both sides. I just think if you're Gordon Hayward, like, why wouldn't you do that? Showcase yourself and just stick around in Boston where you're a contending team on the stage, playing in front of millions. When the schedule comes out, I'm sure the Celtics are going to have plenty of national televised games, and that's just his opportunity to showcase himself, especially those first 30, 40 games of the season.
Yeah.
And they can win it all with him. Like, it's a possibility. It's a real possibility if they stay healthy.
Yeah. I would honestly consider not letting him play a game until like game 76 of the season.
Gronkowski, the Gronk move.
Don't let him walk.
Yeah. Come on in, play the last 10 games, and then playoffs. That's it. I'd be perfectly fine with that. So the Hayward situation looms, and those are the two big things there. And we talked a little bit about the offseason. I'll hit Bobby up here. We do have the draft picks.
Trade them.
Everyone, look, the likely scenarios are you roll up, move up a couple of slots theoretically to get a guy you like and package picks. Other things you can do, you can throw picks, lower picks in deals with guys you want to essentially give away and convert those into second rounders or something. So say you want to dump Cantor, Ojale, and clear those guys out because you just don't want to hold them onto the roster. You could do that. There's stash players there later for sure. Bobby, in your brief, I'm going to give you about 40 seconds to talk about this. No, in your brief study right now,
that's how excited John is right now.
anybody who jumps at you.
I love Devon Vasel, Isaac Okoro. Those are guys that are going to be 14. There at 7. No, I think you can move up to 5 through 7 in the draft with relative ease. With relative ease, there's going to be a lot of teams looking to move back.
Maybe, but you'd have to basically you got to send all 3 of those picks. And again, most teams don't want 3 first rounders in a year, so you actually lose value in doing that. Theoretically, I think you're packaging 2. 14.
You could move players.
14 and 26 might not get you to 7.
No, I think you'll have to send a player there too. I don't know if it's Langford or some of the other guys.
Langford's another Indiana guy that's just ripe on that deal, by the way.
And he's going to miss in the next year too, which kills his value. I'm just saying there's a ton of teams in the lottery looking to move back, and there's not many teams looking to move up. I like Isaac Okoro. He's at 9 right now on a lot of the draft boards. Defensive guy, can get to the rim. Probably a replacement for Semi Ojale, who's going to be gone this offseason.
Ojale is one of the guys I'm wrapping up and sending out in one of these deals. But yeah.
Devon Vasel is explosive. He could be a bench contributor to the team. Defends like crazy. Probably high-end all defense potential there. His shot looks a little wacky. I've seen his shot in recent weeks, so Danny Ainge is going to love him.
Way back, right?
It's like, boom, the slingshot.
What happened there?
I don't know. So maybe
Way over the top.
Not the time to change.
maybe after
everything,
seeing
but-
that, he'll be there at 14. I'm not counting on it. No, I think they got to move up. They're going to do whatever they can to move up in this draft because I hear the Pistons talking about it. I hear the Knicks talking about moving back. So there are a number of different teams talking about moving back here.
All right, so Bobby's going to have more on the draft. We're digging a little deeper here. What's the draft date, Bobby?
November 18th.
Okay, so we got a little under a month, and we will ramp it up there. They've got guys in. There's players they're looking at. So I know we're gonna be hearing names pop up, and we're gonna learn a lot more about these guys. Also, as trade scenarios start to pop up, and you start to envision, okay, start looking at that 6, 7, 8, 9 slot. If you do jump in there, who you might potentially get. And again, it doesn't seem to be the most exciting draft, but it's certainly more exciting than drafting another wave of Grant Williams, Carson Edwards, and
James Young.
You're right.
James Young.
Yikes! Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
That just
I
took
was
a
thinking
leap.
RJ Hunter.
Can we get some more names out there?
Hunter was
Yep,
the
there's RJ.
steal of that draft.
Juwan Johnson. What about Juwan Johnson?
No, man, that's a touchy
Gersh-
subject for Celtics fans. Chill.
That's the
Gershon
Jimmy Butler one.
Yabusele. You don't have to say
The
another
Juwan
name other than
Johnson
that.
Was it?
On the table at that time was Butler and Johnson.
Jimmy Butler, dude.
And
Jimmy
half the room wanted
Butler.
Butler and half the room wanted Johnson. That's the story. And they were really debating it hard up until the final thing. And they went with Johnson. And that's still, people close to Ainge say, that's still one that just eats him alive, you know?
That's tough.
as it should.
Because
That's
those were both considered, and there was a strong argument for both players in that draft, and they went with Johnson. And talk about a guy whose shot just kept getting further.
Yeah.
By the time that thing was done, it was like a soccer throw-in, you know?
Yeah,
What-
Amir
what
Johnson
year-
vibes. Yeah,
Oh.
definitely.
What year was Butler? What year was Butler coming out of college?
I'm
forget,
terrible with
but-
years. I just remember
But
this.
Johnson was a senior.
09.
Like
I believe it was
I
09.
feel
I
like
think.
everyone knew who Juwan Johnson was at that point. I don't know what the big, I don't know.
That's a
That was
killer.
a. That was
Hey,
a tough
everyone knew who Carson Edwards was too. That's how it goes
Right.
with the draft.
Right.
2011. Excuse me. 2011.
Last thing I want to move on. The Lakers won deservedly.
Purple and gold confetti.
They did. It was
They won. I said they were going to win. John, you didn't believe in the Lakers throughout the entire
Neither did I.
bubble, and yeah, you or Bobby. I think me and Josue were like, "Nah, it's Lakers. Like it's gonna be Lakers." And you guys were like, "Nope,
I
not
thought
deep enough."
look, I was taunting you guys with Heat and 6, but I agreed with Bobby that the Heat would make it more competitive than
And they did.
and they did.
They
What's
did.
funny is when they won game 5, when Butler saved them there, he was giving post-game interviews like, that's all I had. You know, like
Oh
knew-
my God! Did you see him
I
walking?
mean-
He did the old man getting out
Yeah.
of his chair,
Yeah.
like, creeping away.
Right. That was their championship. All of the commentary is like, I did it. We did it, man. You know, it was like, you really didn't do anything, but it kept
Right.
the series competitive. It looked closer than it was with the 6 games there. But
Yep.
less about that, more about the two questions off of it are, I'm never a legacy guy. I don't think LeBron to me is no greater for having won another championship here than he would be if he played 10 more years and never won again. He's still the best, or at worst, a fraction behind Jordan, who's ever played. And nothing's going to change it. You keep adding stuff to it. Maybe it makes it easier for people to be able to clearly say he's number one. Because some people really have a tough time saying he's better
How
than
can you
Jordan.
say nothing he does is gonna
Because
add
he's
to
the
his
same
legacy?
guy to me. The wins are the wins are about the competition, the team construction, the timing, everything that happens there. You know, like I'm not faulting him for running into monster Golden State teams. If he was he was no lesser of a player there when he wasn't
And he
able to
beat
win.
one, which, how much more do you weigh that versus any single one of
Well,
Jordan's?
I'm not counting it against him, but I'm saying he can do more. I don't think he can do anything to hurt his legacy. I think
He
he can
cannot.
only make
Yeah.
it
He
better.
cannot. He cannot.
Oh, I agree.
He missed
yeah.
the playoffs. If there was anything, it would have been that.
I mean, think of it like this. I mean, the way he played this year, and I mean, you could make the case that he was easily one of the best players from start to finish this year in
He's
the
been
bubble.
MVP of the leagues every year
Right.
since year 3 here. Okay, he should have 15 MVP awards. It's ridiculous that he doesn't. He's the best player every year, and it's not close. But you're going to follow the analytics or the stats or friggin' great. Giannis is great. It doesn't matter. LeBron's the best player always.
And the crazy thing about it to me is that, like, how old is he? 35, right? At 35, and people always want to
17 years.
People want to compare LeBron and MJ all the time. Michael Jordan at his age 35 season, golfing. He had retired at his age 35 season, and LeBron's doing what he's doing at age 35. So, I mean, I'm not going to have a LeBron-MJ debate right now, but, I mean, that's one of the things that you could certainly say.
He's not human.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not a regular person.
All LeBron did. I mean, LeBron played more years.
It's a unique title. It's a unique title.
Wait, hold on.
I don't know.
Bobby, Josue, you're going over each other. Josue, what were you saying?
Oh, I thought you were asking for both of us to talk at the same time.
No.
Just keep interrupting each other.
Regardless if he's not the number one scorer on the team, if you're one of the top two guys and you're leading the team, if you're putting up stats the way he did in the NBA Finals, I mean, you're going to push the needle in terms of that conversation. In this championship in particular, doesn't really bump him up on my list. Maybe a slot or two, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to put him over Jordan, John, you're going to sit there and say if he goes off and rattles 4 more titles or 4 titles in the next 6 years that you can't even at least say this is maybe not more of a conversation, but more of a declaration that he is the greatest.
I have him ahead of Jordan already, and I have for years. So it doesn't change my opinion.
I mean, sorry, not you, but you know, anybody else's
people
opinion.
Will, but it's almost like the Tom Brady conversation. He'd already established himself as the greatest, and then they're like, "Oh, is this a legacy-defining championship?
Right.
What if he loses? What if Tom Brady falls to 500 in Super Bowls? Is that going to hurt his chances?" You know, like every time you serve him up as a chance to add to that resume, there's also a chance theoretically to detract, which I think is nonsense. If he goes to the finals in the next 3 years and loses them, are we going to start having the conversation about LeBron's a loser because
that's what Jimmy said, though. He doesn't go down.
It doesn't change.
No, but he does. I have friends who can't wait to jump on him for any little reason.
Anything.
They'll never give him credit. They'll say, "Oh, he jumps from team to team. He puts good teams around him. He's lost, as many titles as he's lost." They refuse to give him credit. It doesn't matter what you do. Oh, this is a fake title. Like, this title means nothing. Like,
attention, morons. Getting to the finals and losing is a bigger accomplishment than not getting to the finals at all. And it's like, again, to go to the Brady debate, the Brady versus Montana. Well, Montana's 4-0. That's great. That means he lost in how many other playoff series? And he only got to 4 Super Bowls. Brady's been to a cajillion of them because he wins the AFC. He wins the conference title game. LeBron is there every year.
At what year? Which appearance was it? Was the put it over the top for you, John? Which one was it that was like, you know what, man, this is it?
2016 was the big.
Who he is. It's just who he is and who he's always been. His total game. His game is nearly perfect. Every single thing that he does. Defensively, his presence, his passing, his rebounding. If he wanted to, if in his athletic prime, if he felt like it, you could take Russell Westbrook
double
and you could friggin' toss him out the window. LeBron James could have averaged a triple-double every year of his career if he felt like it. Every single year, without question. If he wants stats, he could get stats. If one year he decided, I'm going to lead the league in scoring, I'm going to score 50 a game, he could have absolutely done that.
This year, he had his most assists ever.
He wants to do at any time. It was almost too easy for him. Like, he was passing because he was like, this is going to be boring if I just score all the time. He can do anything. He's always been that guy for me because I think, honestly, he could have had whatever he wanted.
I'll add this too. The longevity is just unparalleled. We're never going to see anything like that again. The lack of injuries besides 1 year. And I thought what was so cool about this title is the fact that a player like Anthony Davis grew up idolizing him and was able to join him in his prime. And you got the story of him playing on Team USA as a Kentucky player coming into the league. And that set the seeds for him to be able to build that team. That's something people hate about LeBron, is that he's orchestrated so many of these teams. But I think especially now that you look at the Lakers and what he's done with the clutch agency, like, that's the modern way of winning. That's something that wasn't available to a Michael Jordan. And if Jordan had that possibility, would he have been as good at that, given his ego, given the way he wanted to win? I mean, if there's one thing about LeBron, personality-wise, there's certainly an ego, but game-wise, there is ability to defer to Anthony Davis and the stars around him like you've never seen a star.
And people will knock him for that too. They'll say, "Oh, he doesn't want to take the big shot, or he needs Kyrie Irving, he needs."
Well, look at what he empowered Davis to do.
Davis.
Unreal.
No, I agree.
That's a really good point.
It's impossible to not have an ego when you are. When he was good enough to play in the NBA when he was 15, and it's impossible to not have an ego when you've been the chosen one your entire life, and to have this much of a spotlight on him. I remember, I'm working as a nighttime shift producer at NECN back in the day in LeBron's rookie debut, and we're a Boston outfit. Boston sports station, and I cut 3.5 minutes of highlights from his debut, and people are like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "This guy, is it, man."
John put Boston on.
I went down a YouTube rabbit hole like not too long ago during the bubble of just LeBron James as a high schooler, and the interviews that he would do. He sounds just like he did televised. Yeah. Oh yeah. But he interviews, if you go back, he sounds just like he did then as he does now. It's crazy. His professionalism when he was 16, off the charts. And I remember after the lottery and it was determined that Cleveland was going to have the first pick, he just went up to the podium with his entire team, his high school team, and answered the questions. And I think he even said he thinks I'm pretty sure he said he could just start. He said, "I'm probably going to just take the point guard spot." And he's like, "I think Smush Parker's the point guard there, so I'll probably just take that spot." Totally nonchalant about it. It was so perfect. Anyways,
to Bobby's point. Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna go.
I was going to say we're rambling, but what I was going to say, Bobby brought up earlier how Anthony Davis stated how he's always looked up to LeBron, but Paul Pierce is something similar. He's like, there's really nobody left in the league that will step up to LeBron James. Every player now is a player that looked up to LeBron James and is scared of LeBron James. And maybe you saw that a little bit this year. LeBron was kind of bullying his way, up and down the court at points. And you got a whole new crop. You don't have the Paul Pierces and you had a Vince Carter, but players from that era are all gone, and LeBron's the only one left, and he's still doing his thing. And I think players are a little bit intimidated.
Yeah, no, I like what Bobby said about Jordan would have done things probably a similar way if he was playing during this time. I believe in that, but to that point, I think that's probably the biggest reason. If you really boil it down, that's the biggest reason of the debate, right? People on the Jordan side are never, ever, ever going to accept the fact that you can win titles that way. They're never going to accept the fact that LeBron can switch teams and pick, an agent that can bring guys in. Let's face it, guys, 34 years old, 35 years old, a lot of players out there that people just assume wanted to go out and play for LeBron James or play with them, Kawhi Leonard and all these guys. And we found out that wasn't the case. So then, Clutch, did what they had to do. And, they orchestrated to get Anthony Davis there, and the rest is history, which is, I think, a lot of the reason why whatever he does from this point forward is sort of going to be looked at differently. What he did in Cleveland pushed him way higher than anything else, down 3-1 to come back in that series to knock off that Golden State Warriors team and the way he did it. I think that alone put him in a space where I think he sort of popped out when it comes to diehard Jordan
That was
fans.
the one.
I don't think Jordan
popped out with Jordan fans on that one.
I don't think Jordan has anything that matches that.
No, you don't have that to do that by yourself pretty much there. Well, not by yourself. You had Kyrie, but still that one was incredible. Before we could go off on LeBron for a bit, the last thing I want to talk about briefly is for Boston fans, this one stung a little bit because it was Title 17. And again, being the old man in the panel, I very well remember winning Banner 16 and it being this awesome thing and being so far ahead of the Lakers at that point. It was 16-9 when the Celtics won that title. And granted, the Lakers went on after that and they won in 87. But they've added since then 8 titles. Okay. And the Celtics have had 1 in 33 years. So it's hard now to it's hard to make the argument that the Celtics are still the greatest franchise of all time, even though people will want to.
Want me to?
And certainly when you stack up there was one interesting Twitter debate I saw. Is it possible? Does the all Lakers team beat the all NBA team? And the answer is yes.
Let's not forget that
the Lakers have the greatest collection of talent historically on their roster.
It depends how you want to look at it. You want to look at it as pure talent, players, or you're looking at it as impact to the league and impact to the
Wilt,
to the
Kareem, Shaq, at center.
Kobe.
Two of those guys just coming off the
Magic.
bench.
Right, exactly.
Magic, Kobe, LeBron, Anthony Davis is backing
LeBron
up.
Now.
Okay, yeah, but then if we're talking impact, Red Auerbach, what Bill Russell did.
Here we go.
The color barriers, you know what I mean? This is a lot of. How do you want to look at it? You're talking about talent, or we're talking about impact? Because there's no other franchise that impacted the NBA, the basketball world.
Not impact. That's
the
different.
Celtics.
That's different. I don't disagree there.
You would have seen a bunch of goofy, freaking white dudes dribbling around in the '80s if freaking Red Auerbach didn't come along.
Had a few.
You would have seen Magic Johnson and the Celtics dynasty and those guys going at it.
We had a few.
Well, here's my question. The Lakers have.
You know what I mean?
No. I'm not saying significance and impact. The Celtics.
Okay, pure talent. You're talking.
I'm just saying the most successful and the greatest. That the LA 17 might be more impressive than the Celtics 17. The Celtics won a lot of those at a time when they would have 5 of the 10 best players in the league on their team because of the way that they were able to manipulate their roster. They won so many in a row and accumulated them over such a tight period of time when they just dominated the NBA. But when you space it out over time, when there's more teams and it's more competitive and into the modern era, it's really hard to argue against it.
The Lakers have been the better marketing team, and that's gained them a lure that I think has put players, legends into their lap. I mean, we look at how they got Kobe by Kobe just basically diverting himself there in the draft. Shaq doing everything he could to get himself out of Orlando and go there. I think it's more impressive to see what Boston's done with a practice facility in the back of Boston Sports Club for so many years, being in a cold weather climate where no one wants to go, trading up in drafts for Larry Birds and Bill Russells, and just making all these shrewd moves. Even the latest one with Jason Tatum.
College, Bobby. Back in the day, Hellenic College.
Yeah, it's been impressive what they've been able to do in spite of things.
I was playing Greek league basketball downstairs, and Joe Klein and I was running laps upstairs.
I couldn't believe when I went in 2018. Wow, this is where they practice up in Waltham.
Hellenic College. I was there playing ball when Celtics would be working out and stuff. They were winning championships. That was the sports club. Yeah, well, the training facility in El Segundo is not that sexy either for the Lakers. But anyway,
I'll say this though: the Lakers they won their 17th. The Celtics have 17, but the Celtics 17, they are the Boston Celtics. They have 17 championships in Boston. So we look at the Lakers, 5 of theirs are in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So
he's got the pen because he did the math on this right before.
I just did the subtraction.
17 minus 5. You had to write it out.
They have 12 in LA. So you can go ahead and talk about organizations and move from town to town. But as far as I'm concerned, the Boston Celtics are still the greatest NBA franchise in existence.
You know what? Let's put it like this, okay?
Such a homer take.
Let's give it to the Lakers for now, right? The Lakers just pushed ahead. The next 5 years, which team is going to win more championships? And I think that's
LA.
I don't know how you can't say LA.
To Bobby's
point, the Lakers, right?
To Bobby's point, in this whole new universe that we're living in and have been living in, it's just hard to imagine these destination warm weather cities not being the dominant ones in the NBA for years to come. It's amazing Milwaukee struck gold with Giannis, and he actually wants to stay, and they're in the conversation here year after year. But I don't see how this isn't going to be LA, Miami, or New York, Brooklyn for some combination of the next, rest of our lives.
Brooklyn, no, I'm not worried about Brooklyn.
Well, the fortunate thing
anytime those teams have money, when 3 guys get together because they played AAU ball together, and when Tatum looks at Beal and he says, "Hey, we're buddies and we have an agent. Where do we want to go play together?" They're going to be looking at one of the New Yorks, the LA, or Miami. That's it.
Dallas, maybe Chicago has a little reemergence. Who knows?
No.
That's it. Those are the spots. Those are spots. Which, again, to Bobby's point, why you're fortunate, you've had now 3 years out of the last however many that a free agent a top tier free agent has chosen Boston as a
and I think in terms of doing it the old way with trading in the draft, with making trades traditionally, Boston's still probably as good as anyone at doing it that way.
Right.
They just don't have the accessibility to the other channels. And maybe Jason Tatum makes Boston that place. I mean, that's still a key point, that they got him, that they made the move, and he's become what he's become, to where he could eventually become that guy to attract others.
And again, it is interesting because you're talking about that Olympic showcase. That's stuff like that.
That's the very beginning, and that's why the Celtics did that strategically.
Yeah, like send them all, and then here. This is where how many allegiances were made playing on Team USA roster?
Jalen and Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Guys, what
That's
a good one.
That's the thing, though. The bubble happened, and you don't think players were talking to each other.
Oh my
You
God.
have no idea.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
So they do have that. That is their drawing power. But we can go in circles on that. There's a ton of stuff. It really is interesting. You're looking at, not just this year. You're looking at next couple of years. You're looking at that 2023 year where you're going to have to do a real roster build to make sure that you're positioned there, to have the team and the players that you can surround Jason and Jalen around going into the future. So there's short term, there's long term, there's immediate needs that are all going to be addressed, and a lot of stuff that happens here is going to kind of have ripple effect into the next few years. So it will be interesting when things do get cooking a little bit here in the offseason. But we'll have more to talk about next week. Until then, Jimmy Toscano, Bobby Manning. I got to say your name last, Josue, so I get it right. Don't say it. And Josue Pavon.
They need to bring back that meme or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Not bad, though. That's pretty good.
Josue Pavon from heavy.com. Wrapping it up here with the Garden Report. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.